ventured out of the house very often since, well, honestly, it was Friday, March 13th when I left WHS 11 and Studio H and have been hosting Great Day Live from my home. But one of the very few trips that I made sure to go out was to purchase this, the May 5th issue of the Courier-Journal announcing they had won the Pulitzer Prize. Now, I have a digital subscription, encourage people always to support local journalism, but I needed one of these in my hands. So it's a pleasure to have editor of the Pulitzer Prize winning Courier-Journal, Rick Green, joining us this morning. Rick, where were you when you first heard the news? What do you remember from that day?
Well, first off, thank you so much for the chance to spend time with you and your audience. It's good to see you. It's good to frankly see anybody, right? After all these weeks of social isolation.
Yeah.
I was on a conference call with other editors, senior editors of our company, USA Today Network, editors from around the company. And somebody in that group was on the Pulitzer panel and knew that we had won, had not shared that with anybody, and suggested to our president of our company, it'd be great if, the top 12, 14 editors of the company could get together and watch the Pulitzers in person. So here I am in my basement of my home in the East End, and sitting here watching the beginning of the announcement, and I lost my internet. And I have my screen up because we're in the middle of a Zoom Teams meeting, whatever it was. And I have my cell phone next to it on the keyboard. And I lost the connection just as she started to announce the first award. And so I'm picking up my phone, and you know what we do, right? You kind of play with it, try to figure out what's wrong with it. And I'm watching all the folks that are on the Zoom screen all applauding and cheering and, smiling. And I'm thinking, oh my God, somebody won. I wonder who it was. And it took me a couple of minutes to figure out, it was the Courier-Journal. So it was a very surreal moment and a very surreal time in our lives. And I got very emotional. I mean, it's been very hard. And Angie, you and all your friends there at Channel 11, the challenges we face. And you work so hard to tell important stories and to still be a primary news and content of source for all of our readers and watchers and listeners and viewers. And to suddenly see your name in one of the most prestigious places possible, it meant an awful lot, and means an awful lot to my entire staff. And we're very grateful for the recognition.
Now, you've been all over the country and joined Courier-Journal, came here in May 2018. So you just, I think, celebrated your second year anniversary of being here. But I just wanted to read this. One of the things that you did was to introduce yourself to readers. And I'm paraphrasing just a little bit here, but you were saying part of your role and responsibility is it starts with an unflinching commitment to the First Amendment, to investigative journalism, and to finding and then telling through a host of new and exciting ways the stories of Kentucky's people, places, problems, and potential in our 120 counties, starting right here in the state's most populated city and county. When you wrote those words, Rick, I mean, did you imagine that within 2 years, your team would be winning this prestigious award?
No matter how you answer that question, the answer could come off as being really kind of contrived. Here's what I believe. I came here convinced that the Courier-Journal wasn't doing as great of a journalism as it needed to be, as what Kentuckians demand of a 152-year-old institution. I came here Memorial Day weekend 2 years ago, as you mentioned, very cognizant of the fact that this was a newsroom that had won 10 previous Pulitzer Prizes. And we had very strong convictions that we were going to build a great team and pursue great journalism, not because of awards, not because we were trying to win another Pulitzer, but because Kentucky expects so much of the Courier-Journal. And we recruited extremely well, built a very talented team, and it was the team that won this award. We told a story in a very no holds barred kind of manner. We spotted it as soon as it started to break, and we threw everybody at it that we felt we needed to tell that story for this 2.5, 3 weeks in December. It was at the end of a very long year. It's the holiday season, and we pounced on something, and it felt like every time we kicked over another stone or we dug in a little bit deeper, the story became even richer and deeper than what we anticipated. So No. Did I expect 2 years ago that we would win a Pulitzer Prize? Of course not. You never go around thinking, oh my God, I'm going to do this story in hopes of winning a Pulitzer Prize. Are we humbled and honored by the recognition? Boy, you bet. It's an unbelievable feeling. Um, we're in it because we want to make a difference in the lives of our readers. We believe wholeheartedly in those 45 words that changed the world, and that's the First Amendment. And we're just really proud to be doing it here in Louisville, Kentucky.
For those who don't know, of course, you won the Pulitzer for coverage of former Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin's last-minute pardons. And one of the things that Joe Sonka, one of your reporters, has been very candid about is that, I mean, the governor kind of, goaded him. Oh, if you keep digging, you'll win a Pulitzer. Has anybody reached out to Matt Bevin to see what he thinks about it?
We tried, honestly. I mean, we felt it was very important since we were resurrecting some of those conversations that he had with Joe. Didn't hear from him, obviously. Listen, the reality of it is this was a governor that made very questionable decisions as it related to commutations and pardons. And we weren't the only ones who were exposing it. Once our stories hit the website, hit the paper, hit page one, there was a chorus of deep anger and resentment and outright scorn, not just from folks on the left or victims' families, but very prominent Republicans, right? We heard from Mitch McConnell throughout the legislature, folks who were very upset about this. So the work was revelatory. We felt it was important to resurrect the conversation that Joe had with the governor that second weekend in December. Joe was with his wife having dinner, first time they'd been away from their young child for several weeks. And the governor calls him during dinner, and Joe excused himself and went outside. And the governor was very defiant, was very defensive, defended every pardon, every commutation that he had made, felt that the criticism he was receiving from around the Commonwealth, particularly from the legislature, even Republicans, that was unfair. And basically, to your point, challenged Joe and said, listen, you find 3 or 4 of the most interesting cases and you dig and you dig and you dig some more, you'll find that I'm right. And, I don't know how good of a reporter you are, not sure how good of a researcher you are, but if you stick with it, somebody could win a Pulitzer. Well, we didn't publish that quote whenever Joe had that interview initially with the governor. There were so many other things that he said, but one of the first texts that I got after I told the staff that we had won was from Joe. And he says, now will you let me use that quote? So I don't know where Matt Bevin is right now. We certainly didn't pursue this story with the vigor and energy that we did because of his challenge to us. But it provided a little incentive. I won't lie to you.
I'll continue the conversation with Rick Green, editor of Courier-Journal, coming up later in the show.